Well, it's Money Monday, and many of you have sent us emails regarding finances, and we'd like to get some of those in right now. Pat, the first one's from Beatrice, who says, I've noticed that the price of crude oil has been going down. It's been between 30 to 40 per barrel recently, but gas at the pump has risen about 40 cents per gallon since December. Do you know what the cause of this might be? I thought the price at the pump was tied to the price of crude oil.
Well, there are several indices of pricing oil. One is West Texas Intermediate. The other is North Sea Brent, and so you have world prices that are different from what you have here in the United States, and some of that oil from West Texas hasn't gotten itself into the stream of commerce, and the other has. So that's the disparity.
Okay, this is from Tom, who says, do the economic times we're facing now change the rule of 72? Is it a steadfast rule for investing?
Well, it's a steadfast rule for the compounding of money, not necessarily for investing, but it does work. Of course, the larger the percentage of increase, it doesn't quite work that way. What's the rule of 72? It says that you take the interest that's being compounded and divide it into 72, and that tells you how long it'll take for your money to double. It's just that simple. So there's some variations, but in economic hard times, you're probably not going to get solid 10%. If you get solid 10%, it'll still double in 7.2 years. It's just that simple. But if you're not getting it, or if you lose the principal, then it's a whole different ballgame. That assumes you keep the principal and that the interest rates stay the same.
This is from Tom, who says, it seems like the bailouts of the financial institutions are not being held to the same strict standards as the big three auto industries, with things such as required personnel changes at the top, limited CEO compensations, and prohibited golden parachutes, etc. Do you think the banks need stricter treatment?
Tom, there's no question about it. They got a deal. Henry Paulson was a banker, and he was looking after his buddies. And there's no doubt that they got away with murder in that first TARP payout. They weren't held to much accountability at all. If they had been, they'd been loaning some more money out. So there are much stricter requirements. But they said on the automobile companies, but they've said, oh, well, the banking system is so essential to the economic life of our nation, we've got to give them special privileges. That's nonsense. All right.
This is Calvin, who says, a friend of mine recently said he could see wage and price controls being instituted here in the United States in the next few years in order to control inflation. Do you think that could actually happen here?
Well, Congress can do some stupid things. You can't ever bet against Congress doing dumb things. But the wage and price controls are a disaster. Nixon tried it back in the 70s, and it's just as terrible. It's like trying to put down a top on a double boiler, and you have the water boiling and the pressure building up, and you think that top's going to hold it down, and all of a sudden it explodes. That's what happens. When you have wage and price controls, people stop producing. They can't afford to produce. They can't get the money for their products. So as a result, they stop producing, which means there's less supply, which means that the price of individual goods goes up. And so there is no question that wage and price controls are counterproductive. Okay.
This is Celeste, who says, is it possible to send IRA monies directly to a tax-deductible ministry as a donation? And how does someone do that?
Well, there are a couple of restrictions. First of all, you've got to be at 70 and a half years old. This applies right now just for 2009. You can give up to $100,000. It goes direct. Say if you got Fidelity or Schwab or whoever, and you call them and say, or write them, I want you to send so many dollars to such and such charity. You do not get a tax deduction, but at the same time, you don't have to pay taxes on the distribution. You know, there are enforced distributions, and this is a good way to give money to a charity. It doesn't cost you anything, but at the same time, you don't pay taxes, and everybody's happy.
This is from Trey, who says, would you suggest buying a house within the next 6 months or holding off to see what the economy does? Is it possible prices will go much lower? This would be a new primary residence for us.
Trey, this is a big country, and the housing market in Florida and the housing market in Las Vegas would be different from the housing market in Detroit or Virginia and so forth. Depends on where you live. It depends on what kind of deals are out there. You know, but be careful about foreclosed properties because they may be a disaster. The previous owners may have just left them as a wreck, so you'll have more repair. But there are some deals out there. It's just a question of doing some shopping, but don't be in a great hurry. I don't know whether the prices will go down a little bit more. They probably will. But see where you are. See if you want to live in the places what you want, if it meets your needs and you can afford it. I mean, that's the key.
Kind of do your homework before you
commit.
Absolutely.
Well, it meets your needs, not let me time the market.
This is from Wanda, who says, my husband and I are in our 60s. I'm still working to pay for life, medical, dental, vision, car, and house insurance. My husband turned 65 in June of 2009. Do you think an additional policy for long-term care with in-home services is an important consideration?
Yeah, long-term care is a very definite consideration. If you can get on right now, it's an important thing to have. As you get older, there's no doubt that one or more of you may need in-home care, and when you get to a certain point, you can't get it because you're sick or too old. So if you're in good health, now would be the chance to get it. I might say, you said you had life insurance. You know, life insurance is good if you're a young couple, you got young children. Once they grow up, that phase of life insurance isn't important. Then a working husband who's got money wants to look after his wife if he dies prematurely. But after you get 65 and so forth, and you've got some money built up or you've got your pension or whatever, I don't think you need life insurance.
So consider getting rid of that.
Well, yes. And if you want to take on long-term care, that's not a bad deal. You know, you're going to need it. You will need it as you get older, 85 and up. I mean, a lot of bad things happen to you when you cross those magic numbers.
Unless you're drinking Pat's Shake, of course.
If you're drinking, you live to be 100 with robust health. But yes, that is and it's not too terribly expensive. So if you have a really high deductible, you know, you say, okay, I will pay cash for the first $3,000 or $5,000 or whatever, then the thing kicks in after that. You get a much cheaper rate, and that's the way to do. All right.
Okay, well, that's all the time we have for today's questions, but we welcome your financial questions, and each Monday we'll try to get to them.